Okay, what are you saying, people, and welcome back to my channel. Now today got another weekly forex analysis for you guys. So on the screen are the pairs we'll be looking at today, but make sure you stay to the end of the video because I'll be going into depth analysis for every single pair of what's happened during this week and what could be happening during next week's trading week. So make sure you stay to the end of the video. But with all that said, let's get straight into it. First up, we've got Euro USD. Okay, so for Euro USD this week, price action is still quite bullish. We did see a fall to the downside, and again last week I did say if you do see a move to the downside, it's most likely just going to be retracement. So we'll give you another opportunity to look to buy Euro USD if you want to day trade it or look to swing trade it and hold it a little bit longer. So we did see a push to the downside. I did highlight this key level here for Euro USD here on the 4H. That price action keeps seeming to be reacting very well to. You can see resistance, support, resistance. So price action was really focusing on this area on the 4H, and you can see we did tap into it towards the end of this week, had a nice reaction and a nice push to the upside. So overall still very bullish here for Euro USD. Bias is very much to the upside. Again, looking at the higher time frames. On the daily, we are approaching a very key level around 1.21700. I do believe if we can break through this level, it'll probably open up the floodgates all the way to the upside here. I reckon we'll probably go and hit 1.23500, which was this recent swing high on the weekly, quite soonish after we break through that level. So again, bias is very much to the upside. We haven't broken through that level yet, so we can still get another bearish reaction from that level and still send us back down. You can see the last time we were reacting with this level back here in February, we did see a big move to the downside from this resistance. So it does have a lot of weight behind it, but I do think we'll eventually break through it, and when we do, probably be a nice push to the upside back to highs, and again probably even further than that. So coming into next week, we are still looking bullish coming into that level. I probably am expecting to see another bearish reaction from this level. Again, if it does send us back down to this area, again, great opportunity to look to buy again and see another push to the upside, and probably after that we might expect to see the break and the continuation to the upside. So I am expecting to see a nice push to the upside. Can be looking for sales in this area because again, very strong area for the daily, but probably don't want to hold in for that trade for too long because again, price action could just flip against you and just see a break of that area. But again, it is a nice place to go short, looking for a move to the downside. Great area to look to day trade from. But if you do see a push to the downside back into that support, we'll be looking for buys and looking to hold that trade a little bit longer, expecting to see a break of that resistance and a continuation to the upside. However, if next week we remain very bullish and just go and break straight through that area of resistance there, then again this area will be a nice area of support to look for retests, look for continuations to ride those pullbacks to the upside. In that case, probably looking to continue that price action up back up to 1.23500, so back to highs, and again potentially even further than that. So bias is very much to the upside for next week for Euro USD. Again, great areas to look to buy and sell from. Again, if you're looking to sell from here, in my opinion, don't want to hold that trade for too long, but again, it'll probably be a really nice day trade. And if price action does fall back to this area, we'll be looking to buy from this area again to see if we can get another push to the resistance, and if we do have that breakout, can hold it a little bit longer. Next, we're going to take a look at USD JPY. Okay, so next up we've got USD JPY. So USD JPY this week, we saw a nice push to the upside actually after a bit of consolidation. Again, really key level of support, which I did expect to break this week. Actually, however, as you can see, we never did that. Price was trying to break it a couple of times. Then we had some fundamentals come in and saw price really push to the upside from that same support. So overall price was looking quite bullish. However, it's come back to a really key level here on the daily. So as you can see, really strong level of resistance, a big push to the downside. So it does have a lot of weight behind it. And we're now reacting with that same level again as resistance. So we tested it once last week, nice push to the downside, and now we're testing it again this week for a second time. So right now price is still holding this level intact. And I do believe as long as that level stays intact and we reject it, we'll probably coming right back down into that same support that we were last week, so around 108,400, and potentially probably going to break it this time, but again we'll cross that bridge when we get to that. But if we do hold this as resistance, I do think we're going to come back into that support, and if you do get the breakout, it'll probably be back into those lows around there, around 107,400. So bias is to the downside next week. However, if we do actually go and break through that resistance here and start holding that as support, and then we're probably going to continue this overall bullish trend for USD JPY and probably see price right back at these highs here, probably going to give us a new high past that as well. So at a critical level, which will probably give us the bigger move in the market. So like I said before, if we were to see another push to the upside back into that resistance, great place to look for sales. If you do get that bearish confirmation, you can look to short the market and probably hold on for a little bit longer back into that support there, and could give it a really nice swing trade to the downside or around the, let's say, about 100 pips there. So a good range to the downside for JPY. But if you do go and break through that level to the upside and start holding it as support, then quickly probably going to change my bias and see a continuation to the upside back into that resistance up there around 111. So possible buys, possible sells as well for USD this week. However, because we're holding that as resistance, my bias is the downside. But again, if you do break it, I will switch my bias to bullish for USD. So expecting a move to the downside, hopefully get one more push into this area, then look for those sells back into the support. And if you do break through it, probably price will come down there. So bias is to the downside for next week, looking for shorts around this area here. And next we've got USD CAD. Sorry to interrupt the video, guys, but if you are enjoying the content and you're finding it useful, make sure you go hit the subscribe button down below, and also make sure you drop a like as well. It really does help the channel out. But anyway, back to the video. Okay, so next up we've got USD CAD. So USD CAD, you can see on the daily chart, price action is still very bearish here. On the 4 hourly time frame, again, price action is still very bearish, but a slight pullback to the upside during the week, back into this key level of resistance, kind of our last previous swing high of the market. Retested that, nice wick above it. Now we're seeing some continuation to the downside. So overall, price action is still very bearish. Again, something else to note this week as well, we did spike just slightly below our weekly lows here in the market. So you can see here, zooming out, getting the bigger picture of USD CAD, we've seen a big push to the upside all the way up to 1.46 from around 1.21. So very key level of support. They gave us this big push to the upside, and if I just draw a line from that wick there in the market, you can see if I connect that line up, we just spiked below it. So overall, price has actually just made a new low just about below that support there. So a very strong support where we do see a big reaction, and I am expecting to see a big reaction for USD CAD. However, we're not going to just jump to the gun just because we're at a key level of support and now say we're going to go up after seeing all this bearish price action here. It's going to take a lot of momentum for us to shift from bearish to bullish here. So overall, I do expect to see maybe another swing to the downside, maybe into around 1.2 area. And then if we start to see a bit more bullish price action coming back in, then we'll potentially look for buys. But right now, price action is still very bearish, and we'll be a bit hesitant to jump into buys right now for USD CAD. So if you were to push the upside again and see price come back into the resistance, again, looking for those sales, expecting another push to the downside. But if you were to break through that area, then a great place to look for buys, anticipating a bigger push to the upside coming from that weekly support. So going to be a bit reactive with this one for USD CAD. It's still very bearish pair, so it will be difficult to look for buys. But if you do start breaking through this key resistance where we've seen two strong reactions now, if you do break through it and hold it as support, we could anticipate another push to the upside, maybe back into around this area here in the market. So overall, anticipations for next week is to the downside. Again, if we were to push back here, show some nice bearish reactions, look for those sells. If we were to break through it, show some reactions of price holding as support, then you can look for those buys, anticipating a bigger push to the upside. So critical level, going to see what happens there. Of course, USD CAD might just open up for the trading week and just continue to the downside without us. With that case, might be able to look for some buys, short-term buys to the upside, because the market is still quite overextended. But again, only look for those sells as long as we stay below this level. Break above it, then can be looking for those buys using that level as support, anticipating a bigger move to the upside. Up next is Euro GBP. Okay, so next up we've got Euro GBP. So for this pair, price action is becoming a little bit unclear now. Price action is just moving sideways. We did have this big bearish trend not too long ago, but looks like it's being put on the pause right now and it's just moving sideways. Last week I was expecting to see another push to the upside. However, for this pair, we just collapsed to the downside as we had a lot of pound strength coming into the market. And as you know, if pound strength is coming in, that means Euro GBP is going to fall to the downside. So we did have that big push to the downside pretty much as soon as the market opened and just collapsed to the downside. So right now, price action is not really giving us much of a trend, just consolidation here in the market. So I'm going to draw out the consolidation, resistance and support. So I'm going to use that level there as my resistance and this level here as the key level of support. treating that as just a false breakout. You can see we had a nice test of this support, then we had this break and a big push to the upside. So give me an insight that that move is just a false move to give us a breakout to the downside there. So key support around 0.85500 and key resistance around 0.87100. So those are the two levels I'm working with. That's the range. Going on to the 4H, we do have kind of a mid-level of this range here. So if you do look at price action quite close, you can see we do have a level of support and resistance that price action keeps reacting to quite nicely. Taking that across, you can see not too long ago we had a really nice reaction to the upside from that same level. So that's kind of a mid-level between that resistance and that support up there. And I do think if you maintain resistance, so maintain holding this as resistance, I do think we'll probably fall to the downside, coming back to test that support around 0.85500. So bias for next week is the downside as long as we hold this as resistance. If you do creep above it and start holding it as support, then we'll probably see another push to the upside back into that 0.7 area. So two directions where price could potentially move, but I am favoring the move to the downside as long as we keep up holding this as resistance. Another push back into that 0.85500. If you do go and break through that area, we'll probably continue back down to these lows and just continue that overall bearish trend that we've seen for Euro GBP the past few months now. If you do have a move to the downside quite quickly next week, potentially could look for two opportunities. If we do hold on to this level here as support, then potentially you might see another push back into that mid-level there. So potentially could ride this down and back up again, but right now focusing on those shorts. If we do hold that as resistance, back down to 0.85500 for next week. Okay, so up next we've got AUD USD. Okay, so for AUD USD this week, we have price consolidate a little bit just above our key level around 0.78. So again, we have this key level 0.78, which price keeps testing. However, failing to break through. You can see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th test here. We had the break, but however failed to sustain it, and price came straight back down. So overall price is still bullish on the higher time frames. I still do see price pushing up. We're coming back into this key level 0.77, which had a nice bullish reaction towards the end of the week there, pushing back into our 0.78 zone. So I do expect to see a bearish reaction. Can be looking for sales in this area, but again, I wouldn't hold on for those sales for too long, because I do see this as just a retracement in order for price to pull back, find support, and then continue higher, breaking through that key level on the daily again and pushing to the upside, and finally start to see that continuation to the upside for AUD/USD. So biases to the upside for next week. However, we are pushing into that area, so I do expect to see market sell off a little bit. And if we do go and find support in around this area, or maybe even another retest of 0.77, then can be looking for buys again for AUD/USD, expecting another move back into that resistance. And if you go and break through it, can look for the retest or hold your trade on for longer if you really are in some longs, and then expect to see price push back to these highs here around 0.79 and then all the way back up to 0.8 eventually, but that will probably take a few weeks to get there. So overall biases to the upside, but expecting to see a bounce to the downside, a little bit of retracement, and then look for the longs after that. Now let's take a look at NZD CAD. Okay, so for NZD CAD this week, we had a nice breakout to the downside out of that consolidation that we had last week, seeing an overall continuation of the bearish trend. I did say last week, if you do go and break to the downside out of this consolidation, we're probably going to see price take out these lows here and give us some new lows, probably testing around 0.87. As you can see, we actually went past that. Price was looking very bearish at one point, but then towards the end of the week, we did snap back up. So overall price is still very much in a bearish market, making lower lows, lower highs. We did snap back up just above that key level of support there in the market. As you can see, gave us this big push to the upside. We're back above that now. So if this is just a false move, a false breakout, we can expect price to come back down, retest this area. If it does hold a support, great place to look for buys, anticipating a bigger move to the upside with that false move there in the market, potentially back into this resistance over here, which was our previous high before collapsing to the downside. So really nice idea and a nice bullish setup there for NZD CAD, looking for a bigger move to the upside. However, again, we do have to keep in mind that we are still very in a bearish market. So if price action does actually go and break through this level again, we're probably just going to see a continuation of the overall bearish trend and just see a continuation of that bearish momentum that we're seeing in the market. So kind of two ideas there. I'm favoring a push to the upside for NZD CAD and a push back into that level. However, of course, because the market's still bearish, it can easily break underneath, and if it does show some rejection of price failing to break back above, then you can be looking for some shorts, anticipating another push back to those lows and potentially even lower, because again, probably see some new lows because we are still following the direction of the market. So two ideas there. Important to see what happens with this area in the market. Monitor price action. If we turn bullish, can we look for buys and a push into that area? Or of course, wherever you want to see that push, because that is probably quite a substantial push. Again, about 100 pips, can look for 50 pips of those moves, whatever you're looking for to capture in the market. But if you do want to hang on for the majority of the move, I think we can reach that resistance up there. However, if we just remain bullish coming into next week and we see we don't see a retest of that area and price just continues on, great place to look for to go short, because again, that was the previous high of the market. So if we are staying bearish, we should reject this area and see another push back to the downside. So three setups there. If we were to push to the upside, that's one setup, can go short around 0.88500. If you retest this, hold as support, look for buys. If we don't and we break through, hold as resistant, look for sells back to low. So three possible setups. I'm favoring another push to the upside, but again, just monitor price action around here. And if you see a breakthrough, you can look for shorts. If you see price holding, can look for longs, anticipating another move back up to around 0.88500. Next up, we've got GBP NZD. Okay, so now we've got GBP NZD. So for this pair, we found support around this area this week and had a big push to the upside, as you can see there, with Monday's candle being very bullish, Tuesday bit retracement, bit of indecision, and then Wednesday with that follow through there as well. So overall price was looking very bullish. I was expecting to see a break of this support actually. However, as you can see, that did not happen. We had that pound strength come into the market and really saw this pair move to the upside, breaking through some key levels there as well. So overall, we were looking quite bullish. However, coming to Thursday, Friday, the market did switch direction quite aggressively as well, and now is looking a little bit bearish there. So here on the daily, we're coming into a very key level that is drawing my attention. As you can see, resistance there, support, resistance. So it is a key level there on the daily, which I do believe if we break, we're probably going to see a price move back into this support here in the market, which is around 1.92. So we do have a nice range to the downside, but if it does find support here in the market, probably see another move back to the upside, back into those highs there. So if I go on the 4H, back into these highs in the market, which is around 1.96500, so another push into those highs, and at that rate we'll probably see a bullish trend there in the market, so expect to see high highs past it. But if we do go and break through this area, start holding it as resistance, then we'll probably see another move back into that support there, 1.92, and maybe just continue this overall range there in the market. So two possible ideas. Right now we close right in the middle of a key level. So again, coming into Monday, monitor price action, see what happens there for GBP, whether we're starting to see a lot of wicks rejecting this area. Then potentially if we get some nice confirmations, can look for some buys, anticipating this area holding, another push to the upside. But if we do see that bearish momentum coming in from Thursday and Friday continue to the downside, and we see a nice push, can wait for some retrace, so some rejections of resistance, then can look to go short, anticipating another swing back into 1.92, just continuing the range between those two key levels. So two ideas there, just monitor price action there, see which way price wants to go, whether it's holding or whether it's breaking through, and just act accordingly there, anticipating a move to 1.92 if you go and break through the level, or if we hold possibly a move back into 1.96500, then maybe even some new highs after that. Next, we're going to move on to CAD JPY. Okay, so next up we've got CAD JPY. So for this pair, you can see overall still very bullish on the daily. Last week we were favoring another push to the upside, looking for a little bit of retracement and the continuation to the upside. Looking at this from a weekly point of view, you've got our targets around 91,600, I believe. As you can see, this resistance all the way up here is where we're targeting, and you can see we're not too far off from that target there on the weekly. So bias is still to the upside, looking at from the weekly, daily point of view. So again, looking for those buys in the lower time frames and just carrying on that bullish bias to the upside around 91,600, which is just around there. So you've got probably around another 130 give or take pips to the upside, which I do see the market doing. However, if we do see a breakout of this channel, which we do have on the 4H, I think we'll probably see a bigger retracement to the downside before making that move back to that highs up there. So as long as price remains in that channel, I think we'll slowly creep up to the upside and just see price trickle, go hit that target, maybe get some signs of reversals, and then can look for some bigger sells in the market. But right now I still favor another push to the upside back to that resistance before coming down. So if you do go and break through this channel, can look for some short-term sells, maybe back into this support here in the market where the channel started, and then can take profit there, and maybe start and get ready for some buys if you do get some bullish confirmations, anticipating a bigger move to the upside. So overall bias is still to the upside for CAD JPY, as long as you do remain in that channel, break through that channel, can look for some sales, targeting this support here around 88,600, then potentially some buys back up from that area. Up next is GBP USD. Okay, so now we're going to take a look at GBP USD. So for GBP USD, we saw a really nice push to the upside to begin the week off. I did say last week our bias is very much to the upside. Wanting to see a bit more of a pullback first before looking for our entries, preferably to around this area here in the market. So a retracement into that area, then look for some buys. However, the market gapped up and just broke for 1.4. I was looking very, very bullish there. So the market was very bullish. It retraced to the downside, retesting 1.4. Again, a really great place to look for entries. I did say last week, if you do go and break for 1.4, look for retest of this level as a really nice area to look for buys. And as you can see, we tapped into it and saw a nice continuation to the upside. So for this week, again, with our bias very much to the upside, expecting price to reach these highs all the way up here and potentially create some new highs after that. Do expect to see a bit of retracement back into 1.4. If you do hold this area, great place to look for some buys, anticipating a move back into those highs up there. So anticipating buys only for GBPUSD. If you do fall to the downside, just going to treat that as retracement in preparation for another swing to the upside. So only looking for buys, great level 1.4 to look for buys from. If we don't quite get there, we do have this area here in the market. Price support there will be 10 support there again, which we haven't kind of retested. So if it does look like we're holding this area here on the 4H, can look for buys there as well. But if you go and storm through that level, see what happens at 1.4. If you do start to see the rejections, can look for some buys there, and then look to hold for a nice move to the upside there as well. But bias is very much the upside for GBPUSD, looking for that bigger push back to 1.42. And next we're going to see what's happening with GBP CAD. Okay, so next up we've got GBP CAD. So for GBP CAD this week, you can see prices still respecting our key weekly support all the way down here. As you can see, nice bullish reaction from this level. Already had a bit of a bullish reaction not too long ago. Overall, the market is still quite bearish. The trend is still down, making lower lows, lower highs. We did slightly push above this level there, slightly making a new high. But again, it could be treated a bit of a false breakout, since we did close right back below after breaking through that level. So we're closing back below, still respecting that level as resistance. And I think if we take out this support here, we probably do have a good chance of price rolling back over, remaining bearish, and seeing price tap back into those lows around 1.68500. So can see a continuation to the downside for next week for GBP CAD if we do take out that support. However, if we do get back above that resistance and start holding it as support, then we'll probably see a bit of reversal for this pair, and then I expect to see a continuation back to that recent kind of major swing high around 1.72500. So two targets to the upside and to the downside if we do see a break of these key levels. However, if we don't and we just see more sideways movement for GBP CAD, can take advantage of that range and look to buy at this support and sell at that resistance and take advantage of that range until we do see a breakout. But right now the market for GBP CAD is a bit indecisive, a bit sideways, so need a little bit more development to work out a clear direction for this pair going into next week. But right now we've got two key levels, going to monitor, see what happens if we get breaks or if we get nice reactions, can take advantage of them. But if we do break to the upside, targeting around 1.72500, break to the downside back down to these lows around 1.68500. Okay, up next we've got GBP JPY. Okay, so for pound JPY this week, had a big push to the upside, starting off the week, then a bit of consolidation to finish it off. As you can see here, a big push and then consolidation. Last week we were expecting to see a big push to the upside if you do break through that resistance. We saw a nice break, however no retest, and price pretty much just continued to the upside before that pound strength at the beginning of the week. Then after that we saw a lot of consolidation, so not too much happened after that big push with pound JPY. Overall price was just consolidating for the majority of the week. respecting this support here in the market quite well. So for next week, I do still have that bias to the upside for pound JPY. I still think we can hit 155 or 156 very soon for this pair if we keep up this bullish nature. Break through this support, however, I do see a move back into this area, so I'm going to look to trade that to the downside. And if you do get to this area, a great place to look to go long, because finally we will have our retest of that resistance, and I do expect to see the market hold, and that'd be a great place to look for buys if you do get the confirmations, of course, and look to carry on that trade a little bit longer. Obviously look to target probably this area first, but if it does keep going, probably look to carry that trade a little bit longer. But overall bias is to the upside for this pair as long as we stay above this level. So if you do see rejection, can look for buys and anticipate another move into 155, and if we pass through that, probably 156 as well. Break through that support, like I said before, probably expect to see a bigger move to the downside back into that support, which again is a nice place to look to go long for pound JPY as well. So I do see further continuation to the upside for this pair as long as we stay above those two key areas of support. Break through this, we might be in for a bit of a reversal, but as long as we hold this support, I do see a push to the upside, and if we break through it, opportunity to go short in this pair as well, capitalize a nice swing to the downside, then can look to go long and take that back higher for next week there for pound JPY. And up next, we're going to take a look at gold. Okay, so next we've got gold. So for gold this week, we saw more consolidation, but then we did see a continuation to the upside towards the end. I did say last week our bias is still very much to the upside for gold, and if you do see a move to the downside, it's just likely to be retraced and giving us an opportunity to look to go long on this pair. I did highlight this area last week, saying if you do come in here, see some bullish formations, price action confirmations, can look to go long from this area back to highs and potentially even further. And as you can see, we did exactly that. Price kind of held that area a few wicks below, false breakouts on the lower time frames, but from the 4H you can see we did hold that area and we saw more continuation to the upside. So we're coming back to that resistance, which I am expecting to break, but we could see another bearish reaction. In that case, if we do kind of look to see some bit more retracements and let's go long after that on the pullback on the lower time frames. But I still do see price pushing to go and hit our daily trend line, which I was highlighting last week. So again, connecting these major swing highs here in the market. So again, there's our first test, second, and I think we are very close to having our third. So that is where I'm expecting price to go for gold before maybe having a deeper pullback and a deeper retracement to the downside. So we're not too far away from that area. And I think if you go and break through that resistance here, so you see a nice breakout, that is probably where gold is going to go and test around the 1856 mark, 1860. And once we do go and test that trend line, if we do hold, we'll probably see slightly bit big of a bearish reaction and could look to change your bias for the short term there. But for gold right now, coming to that resistance, like I said there, expecting to see some type of pullback, because as you can see, we're having a lot of wick rejections from that area. So again, another pullback would be nice for gold. Then we can look to go long and take that higher back into that resistance and back into that trend line up there. And last but not least, we've got Bitcoin. And finally, we've got Bitcoin. So for Bitcoin this week, as you can see, price had a big push to the downside not too long ago. We had this key level that I was looking for price to continue to the upside from. However, as you can see, we have this big bearish candle breaking through that level and actually giving us some new lows as well after that. So price is looking quite bearish now, slowly turning into a bearish market this, as we were making higher highs, higher lows now. As you see, we're actually making lower lows with this low here, lower high, lower low there as well. So actually making lower lows, lower highs. So the market is turning bearish slowly. I would say a critical level for Bitcoin is this level here. If we break through that, we can go a lot further. Now you start to see a bigger retracement to the downside for this pair, which is around the 44,000 mark, which is where probably price is going to be headed to for the next few days or so. As you can see, looking at the 4H, we're still quite bearish there as well, rejecting this resistance here. And actually, I do see price pushing down to that 44,000 mark into that support. And if you do hold that, then potentially could be a nice place to look to go long for another move back into that 51,000 resistance there. But I don't see price pushing too far to the upside right now. I need a lot more to happen for me to turn bullish again on Bitcoin right now, because price overall is still very bearish, making lower lows, lower highs on the daily. You can see in the 4 hourly we're rejecting levels of resistance, breaking through support. So this is the critical level, 44,000 to watch out for Bitcoin. and I do see price heading to that area now. Again, a nice place to look to go long if we do hold it. Push to 51,000, break through that, probably back to 55,000. But for this pair to really turn bullish again, we need to get back above this key support around 55,000. Break through that, take out that previous high there. We can potentially push back to these highs and turn bullish again. But overall right now, you can see we're still in a very bearish structure. So I do see more continuation to the downside this week for Bitcoin back into 44,000. And if you hold that, potentially could see a nice push back to the upside for next week. Okay, so that is the end of the video, guys. I hope you all enjoyed that and found that useful. Again, like always, if you have any questions, agree or disagree with my analysis, let me know. Put a comment down below and I will get back to you guys. Make sure you subscribe before you leave and drop a like as well if you're feeling generous. But thanks again for watching, guys, and until the next one, I'll see you guys later.